Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Getting ahead of these lines here on Wednesday in the NBA, 9 games to choose from. We had a pretty good night here on Tuesday. Not yet done, but we are looking at plus units on the night at this point after a nice couple wins there. I'll be going through that record tomorrow as I do each and every day at 5:30 p.m. on that live stream. Make sure you are subscribed to that page. Much appreciated. Jump in the comments as well. Like the video, all that good stuff. Come back tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time for that live stream. We'll go through the final card, add a bunch of bets to the card as well, and take your bets and go through them together. But for now, let's get into Wednesday. All right, looking at the 9-game slate we have here on Wednesday, a bunch of back-to-backs. You can see 7 different teams are on the back-to-back here. The ones I circled and highlighted, rather, are Cleveland and Oklahoma City. Cleveland is looking like they're going to handle Utah tonight on Tuesday, and they're going to have a pretty big game in Phoenix where they seem to be scoring a lot more points, does Cleveland, when they don't have Donovan Mitchell. We'll see if he's in for that game tomorrow once we get that injury report from the Cavs. The Thunder, they're going to be playing at Boston, and just as important is that injury report for the Thunder. Are they going to have SGA and or Jalen Williams in that game? Both sat against Philly as Embiid came in and actually pulled them to a victory by 2 points with his 12 free throws. Also got the Bucks there coming in and playing at home against Memphis after a really bad loss at Washington. And I do want to see what the Lake Show do against the Wizards. It does seem like AD and LeBron are going to give it a go on the second leg of this back-to-back after wiping the floor with Toronto. They are now in a situation where they didn't have to play those guys in the fourth quarter. So we'll see what they do. I'm going to get into that game starting right now. As it sits right now, we've got a 12.5 point total for the spread, I should say, for the Lakers. They're favored there on the road against the Wizards with a 234.5 point total. Neither team with the injury report submitted yet, but we do have a look here at their last 5 games. What's really interesting to me is starting with the Wizards on the right. They've played the easiest schedule in the league over the course of their last 5, and that's actually been a reason that they've been so good on defense, allegedly. They've got the 4th worst offensive rating, yet the 7th best D rating, still playing at a super fast pace, also are a good rebounding team. I want to look at who they play. We're going to run through who they played in these last 5 real quick to see what's going on here, because they've got the 3rd best defensive effective field goal percentage. Meanwhile, the Lakers still doing the same thing they've been doing, playing really fast. They went over in that Toronto game, which was a nice hit for us, with a total of 239 there, scoring 128 points. Like I said, LeBron and AD didn't have to play the 4th in that one, so they should still have their legs under them in this game. If we look at Washington over the last 5, you can see that strength of schedule dead last, and you can see it. Take a quick look at who they've been playing, not just in terms of the teams they've been playing: Miami, Detroit, Brooklyn, Chicago, Toronto. A couple really easy games in there, obviously, with Detroit and Brooklyn and Toronto. Chicago, they actually won that game by 2, and that was when the Bulls were struggling. But look at who they've been playing for, like in their lineup, right? We got Kyle Kuzma, Kispert, Avdia, Poole, and then Holmes is now hurt, so you've got some more Marvin Bagley in there and Jared Butler. Do with that what you will, but it's not exactly a defensive juggernaut. It's just they've been playing really bad teams who are pretty much out of it entirely, right? 3 of those 5, and the Bulls not really playing for much except for they know they're in the play-in at this point. So I really just want that to be taken with a grain of salt, that just because they have been playing slightly lower scoring games and playing better defense doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, this game is ripe for an under. On the other side, the Lake Show are on no rest in this one, and the Wizards, by the way, they are also on no rest after handling. They won by 4 points against the Bucks, which was wild. Bucks tried to come back. Giannis did Giannis stuff, and they still lost. Now 1-6 on the season without Dame Lillard. But in this one, we were talking about the Lakers on no rest because there's a couple of interesting splits here that are actually noteworthy. Against the spread, 4-9. You can see there at the bottom with the little highlight, -2 on the against the spread total there. So when their spread, they're basically -2 points against the spread each on average at this point. And against the just margin of victory, -1.9 points. So they're losing by about 2 points each game, with about pick'em lines on average for these situations. Even more telling for me is this the no rest situation for them. You can see the second in terms of going over, 9-3-1 to the over here in these 12 games that they played on no rest this season, and going over by almost 7 points per game as well. So be careful with the over here. I think I do like, I lean over for sure, but the bet I do want to talk about here is D'Lo. I understand that LeBron is probably going to play. That just happened literally right before I was getting ready to record this, and wanted to make sure I got this show out for you guys. But I was looking at D'Lo just assists. I would also say now, though, points and assists, because if LeBron is in, I still think he's going to rely on D'Angelo Russell to do a lot of the damage on offense from the perimeter. I think LeBron's going to be happy to get his assists. I think D'Lo points and assists, or D'Lo points and threes, that'll be something that we have more of a strong understanding of once we know for sure that LeBron is playing. It seems like he might, and I'm basing that on the fact that he didn't play the fourth quarter because he didn't have to, but we want to know what's up tomorrow a little bit more concretely, so tune into that live stream at 5:30 p.m. Game number 2 that we're looking at here, the Thunder are going to be 8.5-point dogs on the road versus the Celtics. Also on no rest here for OKC. Don't have their injury report yet, but Jaylen Brown is the most notable questionable tag for this Celtics squad, alongside Jaden Springer as well. Taking a look at the last 5 for these two teams, the Thunder have definitely played the hardest schedule in the league at this point, even with Philly being sort of the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. Their offensive rating, defensive rating, both middle of the pack. We talked about this leading up to their game against Philly here tonight on Tuesday as I'm recording this, but they have been like middle of the pack in pretty much everything except for playing really fast and shooting really well. The Celtics, on the other hand, just really haven't been defending well at all, especially against jump shots. They have the second best offensive rating in their last 5, but playing really bad teams, and still the 22nd defensive rating, which the Hawks really crushed for them when they scored a bunch of points by shooting really well. They're playing very slowly, so it's not, but that's been the case for them all season. They play at a bottom 10 pace in the league and still have one of the best offensive ratings that helps them get a ton of points per game. Still rebounding the ball really well now that they have most of their 5 playing. We'll see what happens with Jaylen Brown. And then it's, the offensive and defensive effective field goal percentages for them definitely mirror how they've been playing on offense and defense. So I'm just going to get right into what is my second best bet here. And it's a strong lean right now because obviously it's tough to see what's going to happen with SGA and or Jalen Williams. But if we don't get the other reason I think that this is a lean is I can see this moving towards the Celtics before we even get news about those two dudes. So I don't want to lose value by taking 8.5 too early when I might be able to get 10.5, at least 9.5, as people will likely want to bet on the Celtics at home. The Jaylen Brown questionable tag, it definitely impacts things, but either way for Boston, if they're going to struggle to defend shooters, this Thunder team has been chucking, and they get to the rim for sure, but with Shai shooting all the mid-range, if he's in there, even without SGA, they've been leading the league in mid-range frequency over the course of their last 5, and that's with SGA missing 2 of those last 5 games. So they're taking a ton of shots from further away from the basket, including guys like Josh Giddey and Isaiah Joe and company, who have been shooting plenty from outside, and they're shooting the 10th most from above the break right now, which is somewhere that Boston has been most vulnerable, is allowing threes from up top at the point of attack and not being able to defend pick and roll ball handlers very well at all. That's what the Thunder have plenty of, with a really good roll man and Chet Holmgren, who can also pop out for 3. So I think 8.5 is already too much if both J-Dub and SGA are in. But let's see if that line moves a little bit for us. We'll have a more concrete bet for sure at 5:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow on that live stream. Third and final game that we are looking at here, Magic are going to be in New Orleans, and you can get them actually plus 4.5 on the spread here for the Magic, minus 4.5 for the Pellies. 209.5 is that total. And for the Magic, might be missing Caleb Houston, doesn't get very many minutes anyway. For the Pellies, we know that they're still missing Brandon Ingram and Jose Grand Theft Alvarado. If we look at the last 5 games for these two teams, really tough schedule for the Pellies right now. They played the 3rd toughest schedule over the course of their last 5, which was a really poor time to lose Brandon Ingram, as they've had a really hectic schedule over their last 5, as you can see, playing most of the best teams in the league. Their offensive rating, really bad right now. Their defensive rating has definitely taken a hit after not having really good showings, especially over their last 3 games or so. So it does seem like this is going to be a defensive battle, because that's the same concept here for this Magic team, is that they've plummeted on offense, and we've also seen their defensive rating be maintained, right? And so they played a lot of choppy, ugly games, but 209.5 is very low. You can't help me take an over on this one. There's no way you can really convince me of it. So I'm actually looking at a player prop that I did put in already, and that is Paolo Banchero to go over 11.5 rebounds and assists. I think this is one that I am going to get closing line value, meaning this is going to move up. And if you want to take an over on Paolo, you're going to have to get it at 12.5 tomorrow, or even maybe late tonight. So hopefully you're still getting to this, as it's still pretty early out here on the West Coast. The couple things I'm looking at for this rebounds and assists, the Pellies limit pick and roll ball handlers points per game best in the league, essentially top 5, and at times this season they've been the best in the league for a while, with their above the break defense actually playing really, really well. They are giving up more assists to this in this situation because they crowd above the break so much and try not to give up threes from up there, right? Paolo last game, that was exactly what happened. We saw him get a ton of assists, 11 assists on 19 potential assists in this last game versus the Pelicans on the 21st of March. He had 10 rebounds on 13 rebound chances. You don't love to see that, but it's still, even if he gets 10 rebound chances and gets 6 boards, that's still a very reasonable number. And then if you add the assists, which are at 5.5 right now, and if you want that for plus money, you can take that as well. I like adding the rebounds because I think he's going to do at least one of these to a really large degree, especially when you see how New Orleans is weakest, which is allowing the 6th most rebounds to his rebound profile. They give up assists much more to the ball handler in the pick and roll, which is what Paolo runs more than anybody else on the team. Markelle Fultz was running that as well, but he's been just completely banished to the bench now, has not played more than like 13 minutes, maybe one time in the last 6 or 7 games. So he's really not being used anymore. Not sure if they're keeping him on the bench for health reasons until the playoffs, but he's not getting minutes at this point, and he might be his future in Orlando might not be much longer. So Paolo as the point guard in this one, we're going to take him for the rebounds and the assists against the Pelicans. And that is all the time that I have for you in this one. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page if you would. Jump in the comments. Let me know what you guys are betting. Definitely love hearing from you all. Give the video a like. Obviously, much helpful, very helpful and much appreciated. And then we'll be back with that live stream, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Bring y'all's bets. We'll be talking about that stuff together. I'll go through some of the process of how I make these bets, and we'll throw a few on the card together as we get ahead of this Wednesday slate. So until I see you next, happy betting.